Hello, hello, hello. Don set me up real good. Thank you, Don. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. So good to see you all here. We got some new people we'll introduce later. But anyway, thank you for being here. We know you could have been snow skiing or something up in Colorado or something. You chose this wonderful weather here. So I'm going to start this clock. One thing I have is... Oh, she started. I've always had a problem with time. I have more than I need to say, and so if you can stand the next 3 or 4 hours here, Well, most of you who have been here since we've been here know that part of my career, I spent 10 years in law enforcement, and I was a cop. I know I don't look like it, but all of this used to be up here. It's not there anymore, but anyway, that was perfect. In the last couple of years, I was a juvenile officer. I worked with both the police and the sheriff's department, long story. And I really enjoyed juvenile. What I enjoyed most was I went around to the different schools, and I was, Mr. Barry, Reverend Officer Barry, the cop, and I loved working with the little kids, and it was a big joy. The worst part about it was in child abuse, when I had to go investigate child abuses. And one that came to my mind that always bugged me was this nurse from school called me, and this little girl was there, and she said, "I've got a terrible case. We need to get on it right away." Went over there, and on this little girl's bottom was the perfect signature of a hot electric stove coil, where the mother had set the child on there, and that just, she turned out all right, scars for life, and the mother was arrested, and et cetera, et cetera. But somehow that always pops in my mind for some reason, and I just have to say no. And there's another case that was pretty involved. The Walgreens called and said that they had arrested a young girl, 15 years old. She was shoplifting. And I thought, well, I'll go over there, and if it's not too much, then maybe we can talk to them, have pressing charges, and we'll get the parents together and see if we can learn a lesson from this. Went over there, and walked in there, and the girl had a black eye, very obvious. And I said, "What's going on?" And she said, "I just want to die." I said, "Well, let's talk about this." I said, "What did she take?" He said, "Well, she took toothpaste and a toothbrush, a hairbrush, and some candy bars." I found out what was going on. She said, "My father kicked me out of the house. I'm pregnant. I don't know how long, but she was very obviously pregnant." And she said, "He kicked me out of the house, he hit me in the face, and then he pushed me down the stairs." There were 3 stairs outside the house going down. I said, "Where's your father now?" She said, "I don't know. He kicked me out. I don't want to see him again. I hate him, et cetera, et cetera." And I said, "Well, we need to talk." I called Child Protective Services, and I briefed them on what was going on. And the lady at Protective Services, she said, "Well, what do you want to do? How do you want to handle this?" I said, "Well, I want to talk to the DA first." And I said, "And set up a meeting time that we can get the parents together. I want to get the school nurse together and all this bunch of people. I want to come at it like a family for this kid. We need to support her." And so we did. I talked to the VA, and he processed some paperwork. And in that paperwork was a warrant for the arrest of the father. Turned out to be he was the stepfather. For the arrest of the father for child abuse and child abandonment. And so I tucked them in my briefcase, and we met. I said, "Well, let's meet at CPS so it's not so intimidating with all the police around, so let's go down there." And we were recording the story. I wanted to get him just to admit it. And I thought he would be hard to get the information out of. I said, "Tell me what happened." Boy, he started this tirade of that little bitch and all this stuff, and she was hanging around with this loud bum who happened to be in jail at the time, and running around with him. She gets pregnant, and I told her, and I don't want to raise her little brat under my roof, and I'm not going to do it. I don't want her living here either. And I said, "So what are you willing to do? You just think you can just kick her out?" "She's my kid. I can do whatever I want her to do." I said, "Okay. We'll just talk about that later." And So we had a long, extended meeting, and as a result of it, the DA ultimately wanted the child put in protective services and just her witness protection because she was going to testify against her father, her boyfriend threatened to kill her, all this stuff. And I got thinking, wow, this is something. So the mother said, well, we have a meeting with our preacher. He's at the local church, and we have a meeting with him this afternoon. I said, well, can I be there? Can you bring him here? And she brought this guy in, nice guy, apparently. And I said, well, what's going on here? He said, well, I just want to tell her she's thinking about an abortion, and if she gets an abortion, she's going straight to hell. God does not put up with that kind of shenanigans, young lady. And I'm there, and I just said, sit your ass down, don't say another word. I don't want to hear from you. Prior to that, when I was 10 years old, I had my tonsils out. And we talked about this. Jerry and Don both have had out-of-body experiences. Perhaps you have too. But I remember us floating above my body. I was under anesthesia. And I was floating above my body. And I saw what was going on. I heard what they had to say. And I was kind of freaked out. My God. And when I got out of the hospital, I told my parents. My mother was a little more sympathetic, but Dad said, oh, that's a bunch of crap. You were just dreaming. Don't give me that. And I said, well, I was floating. Don't talk to me like that. So at Sunday school, next week or two, I was in the Sunday school, and the minister came down. He said, well, I've got a substitute speaker for today, and so I'm here to answer your questions. No question's a stupid question. And you can answer whatever you want. If you want to talk about God or you want to talk about Jesus, whatever you want to talk about, I'm here for you. It's a safe place. Oh, well, Barry, you have a question? I said, yes. When I had my tonsils out, I was floating above my body, and I was looking down, and I heard it. He said, what? Don't you? That's a lie. Don't you talk like that. The devil's in you. And that was my last time I ever went to church. Of course, I came back. No, but I never went to that church or any other church to stay. Ministers and church to me, they were just evil places. And so when I remembered back in this story about this little girl, I remember how they just dismissed her completely. They just dismissed her. They didn't want anything to do with her. She had all these people against her. And so I said to the CPS, I said, do you have a counselor here? Do you have somebody, perhaps preferably a female, that can talk with this girl because she thinks she's going to hell. She got kicked out of her house. Father doesn't want her back. And neither her mother was passive. Whatever he says. And she said, well, I've got this temporary, she's not really a minister, but she wears a collar, and she doesn't talk about much what religion she is. I said, well, it doesn't matter. I said, we're talking about compassion here, somebody to listen to this young lady. And so I got to meet this Sister Sarah, very unassuming, elderly lady, little short, squat lady, bright eyes, just bright eyes. And I said, would you talk with this young lady? And she said, yes. And I said, but I need to know that who you are, that you're not going to. She said, why don't you just come and be with us? I said, well, that's up to her. Ask her, she said. And I had kind of made friends with this young girl by being kind and nice to her and encouraging to her. And she said, well, I'll do that, but I have to have the other minister, I have to have the mother and the father here too. So let's do it. Let's do it. So the minister, the I don't want to say what denomination, it's not what we're about here. He came in, and this little Sister Sarah came in, and the minister went, I said, well, how do you want to start this? And tell us what you told this young lady when she told you she wanted an abortion. I'll tell you what I told her, and I'll tell her again. It's God's will not to do that. It's a sanctity of life. And if she gives up for abortion, she's murdering this baby. This baby will never have a chance to grow up. This baby will never have children. This baby will... we'll never get married, and nothing, it's going to ruin its life, and on and on and on. I watched over this young lady, Sister Sarah, and she looked up and she said, "May I speak?" And she said, "Young lady," her name is Wendy, I think, the girl, "don't listen to that." And she turned to him and said, "That might be your idea of what God is, that would take an innocent child and throw her into hell. You really think that, do you? You really believe that? My God would never do anything like that." Jesus said, "My God is love." He didn't say love sometimes or most of the time. He said love, period. You don't believe that, do you? Well, of course I believe that. I believe what Jesus said. You say that, but your words don't reflect it. Your words don't reflect it. And so that kind of, I don't know, went over. But anyway, another 20 minutes or so. But we walked outside, and the CPS lady, very nice lady, and this Sister Sarah, and I decided to go for coffee. So we went, there's a coffee shop. And I was confused. That was back then. I was 30-something years old. I didn't want anything to do with religion or talking to preachers or anything like that. I didn't believe what they had to say. But this Sister Sarah, she really sparked something in my mind. Really drew me to her. And so we met, and she said, "What that," and never forget this. Me, I'll never forget it. She said, "That minister has a problem. He doesn't realize that the soul and the body are separate. He thinks it's all one. And he thinks the body goes down and burdens into hell, and that apparently the soul burns up with it. He's so mistaken, and I'm so sad." I'm like, "And?" She said, "Well, you just need to decide you want to find out more for yourself, and you'll have to pray about it." I said, "Okay." She said, "Do you pray?" I said, "No, I don't know what I believe. I don't know who to pray to." And she said, "Well, you're not going to pray to anything. You're going to come to believe that there's a powerful being, precious being inside you." She said, "You might think you're a tough cop, but you're a precious child of God." And she said, "You need nurturing." And she said, "I don't have time to do that, but I can tell you, you're going to find it through the power of prayer. And believe it." And that changed my life. Eventually, I got out of law enforcement, and here I am. Went to Unity. So I want to talk a little bit about. Where's our next slide, baby? So this, and I hear it all the time in radio. I like to listen to the radio if I'm driving, and I like to tune into what these preachers are saying. And they're just fear, preaching fear, judgment, and just down and out anger and frustration, and calling people, don't say they don't love God, they don't understand God, and I'm thinking, God Almighty, listen to that. People are listening to this stuff nowadays. So anyway, here's the alternatives, and I have to be kind. I have not been kind so far, but I mean in this talk here, but I have to be kind because I have to see their way too. If I'm going to be true to unity and our principles, I have to hear other people out, whether I disagree with them vehemently or not. I have to try to find out where they're coming from. I have to be compassionate. I'm asking them to be compassionate and hollering on the radio, and here I am too. So, man, I'm doing the same thing they are. I'm judging them. Who the hell do they think they are? I'm just judging them. I don't need to judge them. I need to look at myself. How am I doing? How am I approaching it? Well, the way they're approaching it apparently is to believe that there's one life, you live one life, and that's it, and either you go to heaven or you go to hell, and all the periphery. So what Natalie and I have been into and many of you have been into, is the idea of reincarnation. And so you can read that up there, but I'll brief it with you. Reincarnation, also known as rebirth, is a philosophical or religious concept that the Non-physical essence of a living being begins a new life in a different physical form or body after biological death. Resurrection is a similar process hypothesized by some religions, which a soul comes back to life in the same body, and most beliefs involving reincarnation. The soul is seen as immortal, and the only thing that becomes perishable is the body. Upon death, the soul becomes reincarnated into a new infant to live again. I wholeheartedly believe that. And if you believe that, then we're in the majority, because, is there another slide up here? Because 51% of the people on this planet, 51% believe in reincarnation. And they're the ones that do, I think there's another slide here. The ones that believe in reincarnation are Hinduism, Jainism, Buddhism, Sikhism, and Kabbalah Judaism. The ones who don't, boy, you're good, Natalie. She took it. Christianity, Islam, Shintoism, and Zoroastrianism. Zoroastrianism. And that doesn't include, we can go back to that, 2 more slides, 1 more. That's it. So, plus those who identify as new, that doesn't include the ones that we identify as New Thought or New Age or the spiritualists or what have you. And in my tenure as a Unity minister, I have had people say, oh my God, if my minister knew I was here, they'd throw me out of church. I believe what you believe, but I'm afraid to say anything. My family wouldn't believe me, and I don't want people to think badly. And so there's a lot of those. And there may be some of you here, I don't know. No, you here. I think we know most of you. But it's okay if you don't. This is not any have-tos. We have no dogma. You don't have to believe in this to become a part of Unity by any means. I rattled off some of those, the Hinduism and Jainism. I didn't know what Jainism was. Similar to Hinduism, Jainism. Jainism is another commonly practiced religion in the Central Asian region. But they all believe in one way or the other in life after death. Some of them believe in transmigration, that's going into an animal body. That's not our teachings. If they want to believe that, then I guess that could be part of them as well. So how am I doing on time here? So one minister, Eric Butterworth, he's just been my favorite minister from all times. I actually met him, and he's the reason I got into Unity, because I knew I had to do something. This is many years later. The police force was way in the back now, and I was in the appliance business. I was repairing washing machines and refrigerators and air conditioners, what have you. I spent time in the military as well. But anyway, I was trying to find a place, and so I started going to churches. I went down the phone book, and I would visit this church, just lay low and listen to what they had to say. And I'd go, next week I'd go to another. I went to the synagogue. I went to the Catholic seminary thing they had there on the Gulf Coast. I thought maybe this is it, and I didn't find anything. And I kept going, nothing pleased me. And I would ask for the literature, and it was I guess I'm an atheist. I don't know. Maybe that's what I am, an atheist. I got to believe in something. So I said to someone one time that I respected, he said, what religion are you? I said, I don't know, maybe I'm an atheist. And he said, do you believe in God? And I said, yeah, I suppose. What's your conception of what God is? Well, I did read in the Bible that Jesus said God is love. And God is omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent. I'm not sure. He said, well, do you believe in life? What are you talking about? Life. You know, the trees grow, the flowers grow, babies grow, people grow. Life. Oh, I believe in life. Well, then use God in place of life. If you believe in life, you believe in God because God is life. And God is all there is. God is in everything. In fact, God is not in the muffin like a blueberry. God is the muffin and the blueberry. Every atom, the subatomic particles, the quarks and the leptons, every atom, every molecule every cell. It's all God. It's all living. There's nothing else. There's one power, one presence, everything. And we're all connected just by the air we breathe, by the thoughts we think. We're all connected. Doesn't matter who we are, what color of skin we have, what creed, what religion, we're all connected. We're all connected. And I always add this, by the way, if you believe in reincarnation, and you may not, and you don't have to, but if you believe in reincarnation, then just know that we don't always come back. We always progress. We always progress to a higher consciousness a little time. But you might have been here black, you might have been here green, you might have been here purple, you might have been here female, male, whatever. So anything that you focus upon, just know that you have been there before, because we are all one. And if you're, let's say, a hater of a particular group, then chances are, when you come back, you will be a part of a group that is hated by other people, and you will experience, because we have to experience everything everybody else has. So there's no difference. So we can't be judgmental like I am sometimes still. And we can't be prejudiced. And we can't be haters, because that's a vibration. Everything is vibration, frequency. And we're all attached to that consciousness of love, unless we cut it off by our negative thinking. And our negative thinking is what Jesus referred to as Satan. That is the devil within us. They taught it a different way, though. So, my glasses. Oh, I don't have mine. Jesus said, become perfect as your heavenly Father is perfect. I have not reached that stage yet. Thank you. Oh, you have? Stand up, please. So, I like what Eric Butterworth, he talks about reincarnation. And he says, Orthodox Christianity has taught that birth is the beginning of life, but that death is but a step into our eternal existence, which is the real purpose of it all. Life down here is only a preparation for a future bliss to come up there. But this leaves a host of unanswered questions. He said the church has tended to envelop itself in a veil of infallibility. The pilgrim of the way has been warned. Do not reason, do not think, do not question. I've been told that in church. When I started asking questions, I went to this church service, and I stayed around, and I said, well, I'd like to answer. We don't answer. God works in mysterious ways. You just accept. You just say yes to God, and if you don't, you're saying no. That's what I've heard in my life. So, he said, let us courageously ask some questions for ourselves, not in a criticism of any theological position, but through an earnest desire to find a framework for a workable faith. Have you not times wondered, if this life is but the preparation for another to come, how do we account for the inbred desire to live? Why are we not anxious to get into the next life? Even the most rabid fundamentalist who believes in the glories of heaven leaves no stone unturned in trying to heal any illness. How do we account for the great inequality among men and women? While we are told that all men are created equal, is God then not a God of justice and fairness? Are we supposed to arrive at the same goal even though we start on different levels? It would appear that some have a head start while others commence with a handicap. Some are born with the proverbial silver spoon in their mouths, while others are born on the wrong side of the tracks. Some are born with normal, healthy minds and bodies, while others are born crippled or blind or with brain injury. Where's the justice in that? How can we say a soul is created at a point in time and then survives the death of a physical body and those go on living forever? Isn't it illogical and unscientific to say that we've survived the body, but we did not pre-exist it? So, if I can find my... I don't know if you have it on a slide or not, Natalie. Okay, so I'll ask you this question. Do you believe you have a soul? And that soul is not directly cemented into that body. That soul is able to leave that body under certain conditions. It may be death. It may be something like we went through a near-death experience, Jerry and John, maybe others. And do you believe that soul, when the mother's egg is fertilized, and this is another one. I don't believe life starts at conception. All the teachers, the mystics, what have you, say, life, when it begins, if you want to talk about life begins, when that soul is anchored in that body, prior to being anchored or taking a permanent residence in that little body, that soul is working with the mother on the other side. When you go to sleep, you leave your body and you're working with people on the other side. No, you don't remember it because it would drive you crazy if you did remember it. And so we're working at a higher level all the time, so there's much planning that goes on. And if there's a reason that mother is going to have an abortion, then this little soul knows in advance, because it's a grown, conscious being that exists right now in another frequency, but it knows what the mother's thinking. I mean, we can have ESP right here down on Earth. Why can't they understand that what's going on between the mother and the higher self and all the teachers and the guides? And you have teachers and guides, you have guardian angels, you have all of that, you have a family. And when you exit this planet, I know I'm going here and here, when you exit this planet, you are among your own. You have a family there, not only your family that you live here with, but you've got a heavenly family. That's all their purpose is, to take care of you and watch over you and to communicate with you. But we don't shut up long enough, like me now, to hear what they're asking of us, and which is, you got another hour? Almost done. And so,
take your time.
Yeah, okay, you tell me that when the bingo crowd starts coming in. Take your time, people. I'm still preaching. Under the bee, 5. No. So anyway, there's communication. It's ongoing. So if that soul finds out that it's going to be aborted, it simply doesn't take up permanent residence in the body. And it's always goes on, and it can go into another body, or wait until this woman is finally, if it's part of a soul group, wait until this woman becomes pregnant again, if she does. But nobody dies. You're not killing anybody. You're not, as the preacher said, murdering somebody and they never have a chance. This is what it is. You never die. You never lose consciousness. The instant your body drops, you don't drop consciousness. You probably wonder, what happened? What happened to me? Oh my God, there's my body. Oh my God. And you will feel the light and the love behind you, and you turn around and you will see the light. And we always say, go to the light. I tell you, I'm going to do one more thing here. I'm kind of out of time here. We made a promise that we would be on time. Forget it. If you want to leave. Sorry, I'm having fun. So, some person said to me one time, I don't know if I want to go to heaven. I'm having a lot of fun here on earth, and heaven sounds so boring, floating around on a cloud and all stuff like this. Well, nobody can prove, in essence, what I'm going to tell you, but then again, nobody can prove it's not true. Now, I'm not always right, and sometimes I don't know what I'm talking about. All I can tell you is what I believe, and I change my mind often. Charles Fillmore, co-founder with Unity, said, he was teaching a class, and we were in a conversation, and one of the students said, "Dad, or what about that, or that, or that, or that, or that?" And Charles Fillmore said, he was a modern-day mystic, he said, I don't, you believe that? I don't believe that. Where'd you get that? He said, from your book, you wrote it. He said, I believed that 20 years ago. I don't believe that now. Don't get stuck in what you believe, what you think. You know, you're not always going to stay there. Be willing to change your mind. Be willing to be wrong. What did we say, the thing we saw the other night? You want to be right? You want to be happy?
Either or, yep.
I want to be both. So just, I'm going to scan this here. There are people who can communicate across the country. You've heard that, from one room to another, from one country to another, from one town to another, and they can communicate. Well, there are people who are on the other side who are listed as teachers and guides who communicate with people that are here. And when they have a consensus on something between a bunch of them over there and a bunch of them over here, when they reach a consensus, then it's put in here, in one of these books here. So, to those upon the spiritual plane, the moment of death is not at all as it seems to people on earth. The following description might comprise your own transitional experience. When you first become aware, when you first awaken over there, oftentimes not unlike your awakening from sleep each morning on earth life, for a brief moment you may feel that you're entirely alone, but you're not alone. As your consciousness activates quickly, you will become aware that you are surrounded either by members of your family or close friends, or one of the spiritual teachers with whom you have become associated with may welcome you. Your first experience, quite likely, will be a most joyous reunion for those of you who are beloved to you and who have preceded you. Many will be the warm greetings, the happy smiles, the tears of joy, and the wonderful hand clasps and hugs with friends. Following this reunion, you will be escorted to what is called the Rehabilitation Center. Oh, I need that. These centers are beautiful beyond earthly words. They may not seem to be actually buildings, but more like gardens, creating an inner feeling of wondrous freedom and a great contact and association with inner spiritual nature. Here in the center, you will receive an unusual type of spiritual treatment, and they refer you to another one of their lessons. A teacher who is dedicated to this rehabilitation place will work up with you in what might be termed a state of spiritual hypnosis. While in this state, it will pass before your inner eye many of the important episodes of your recent earth life, the good, bad, and the ugly. The teacher assists in this purpose for a most definite purpose, to help you acquire a fuller realization of the import and meaning of your various earth experiences. And of course, it goes on and on and on. But what is incredible about it, if you believe it, and I do, absolutely, you will find that you have so much love, unconditional love, and you are given choices. And yes, you get a choice to come back, and you can come back on planet Earth. You can choose your parents. You can do that. You choose your parents or not, and you can be any sex, gender, age, whatever have you. Not age. When you come into the body, and what you will learn most of all over there is how to evolve in consciousness. There are schools there. There are universities there, and I don't know. I keep running out of time in my mind, and I got to get done. But anyway, in 2 weeks we're going to talk about what I think, and this is kind of a touchy subject with some people, but I believe there's been a war upon women. War upon women for eons. For eons. Don't be embarrassed, Cheryl. We love Cheryl. And so, not next week, Regina's going to be here, but after that. And I'm going to have my various correlation on why I think there's been a war on women, and what are the spiritual ramifications of that. So anyway, I'll wrap up anyway. God bless. Thank you.
Let's prepare for a short period of meditation. Just invite you to allow that music to call you within, to at the very center of your being, where you know the truth. You know the truth. And so whatever pieces of information that doesn't feel right to you today. We know and we trust that you will take what you want and leave the rest. We're all at different places on this path, but we are on one path. And it all is directed home. And so we trust our process, we trust our learning, we trust our soul. We trust our divine and perfect timing. We can't go too fast and we can't go too slow. We are right where we're supposed to be right now. So breathe into that, breathe away, release any concerns, any discomfort with yourself or where you are in that process. We are all about self-compassion here, self-forgiveness, and self-love. And so as we prepare to go forth in this day and in this week, and maybe thoughts of the message come up, and we just remain open. Hearts open, minds open. Open to explore, open to question. Open to trusting our path. And for this, we are so very, very grateful. Thank you, thank you. Thank you. Amen.